Proverbs chapter 23, verse 23 says, "Buy the truth and do not sell it." In the early 1970s, the Iraqi government arrested a group of American students on trumped-up espionage charges. In order to elicit admissions of guilt, they tortured them. And they were told that if they confessed that they were spies, they would go free. In other words, if they would compromise the truth and admit to a lie, they would be free. One by one, as the pressures and the pain mounted, they all confessed to crimes that they had not committed, all except one student. And he refused to confess. The torture intensified and the loneliness of isolation became unbearable. And he came close to breaking, but he didn't. And finally they announced that they were finished with his case and that he could simply confess or die. A confession lay before him as they raised a pistol to his head. They cocked the hammer and they started the countdown. He had heard executions from his cell, and so he knew what his captors were capable of. "Sign your name," he was told, "and you're going to live." But he refused. He closed his eyes, he grimaced, and he prepared to die. And then they pulled the trigger. When he heard the click, he thought he was dead. The gun, however, had not been loaded. The student was eventually released, but he discovered afterward that every other prisoner who had confessed was hanged in the public square. He was the only survivor. That day, he learned a valuable lesson about facing tough times, and that is that compromise represents a far greater risk than courage. So, the threefold word for you today is, number one, it's always right to do right. Number two, it's never wrong to do right. And number three, it's never right to do wrong. We may not face the kind of persecution or suffering or difficulty that this student did, but we will be faced from time to time in our life with the opportunity to compromise the truth. And that's when we must stand most strongly for that which we know is right, knowing that we have an inheritance in heaven. I'm Ray Jones, and that's another heart truth for your day.